Harvard and Princeton, and I was lucky enough to get into both of them, but I won a scholarship to Princeton. So other countries' governments, from India and from Korea. Oh, yeah, we've really tried to give everybody a holiday from politics. We don't need politics all the time. In fact, I know the chances of us getting to 0 cases in New South Wales, it's not going to happen. And really the focus needs to be on vaccinations. We didn't believe that you could ask business and commerce to close down their business and shut their doors. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your dedication. You make Australia better by being here. We're so lucky to have you as part of our wonderful multicultural community.
Good day, everyone. My name is Navneet Anand from Voice Article, local and global. Today, me sitting in the Bella Vista studio talking to the leader of opposition in New South Wales, Chris MINNS. Which means welcome to the show.
Navneet, thank you. Thank you for having me.
NSW Leader of Opposition, Chris MINNS. Tell me in few lines the journey that you have enjoyed so far.
Well, I'm the leader of the New South Wales Labor Party. I'm committed to this wonderful state. I want to make Australia better. I'm from southern Sydney. I'm the member for Cogra, and I'm married to my wife, whose name is Anna. And we have 3 boys, Joe, Nicholas, and George. So, yeah, look, real honour to be leader of the Labor Party. And I'm really excited about the next 12 months and how we can make this state better.
That's what we are looking forward to have this state as the best state of the country as well. Prior to entering the parliament, you were the carer of your children when your wife was trying to set up the business. What difference did it make when you decided to do that versus what you're doing at the moment?
Well, it was a big change. So we'd come back from America. I studied at Princeton University and I graduated. We came back. Anna had started a business and we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't have options for carers. And I thought that she'd done a lot for me. So I looked after our little boys when they were just babies, which was good fun. Not for a long time. I still have to admit, Navneet, that my wife has done the overwhelming child rearing of our kids. She's just done an incredible job. But yeah, it was a good experience, and it was a reminder of, you know, how important and how difficult it is raising kids.
I fully agree with you. And now talking about studies in US, you did your master's in public policy at Princeton University. What exactly inspired you to go there and do this particular course?
Well, I applied to Harvard and Princeton, and I was lucky enough to get into both of them, but I won a scholarship to Princeton. So that made the decision easy. Education in America is really expensive. So yeah, wonderful time. Studied public policy, but we had a real emphasis on economics and understanding the modern economy and where the world would be moving in the next couple of years. It was a really good opportunity to get out of politics and government and think about the future a little bit.
Well, I think what I normally say is not only the classroom studies and the formal education that you got from there, I think international exposure as well, meeting the people from around the world, that would have definitely helped in your career as well.
It was great. Yeah, we met some amazing people, people that work, who were Navy SEALs in the United States Navy and who worked for the CIA and the State Department and where else? Other countries' governments, from India and from Korea, and it was an incredible experience. And those people are now scattered around the world doing incredible things.
You have taken over the leader position for the opposition in New South Wales at this difficult times of lockdown. I think that stops you meeting with the people face to face and going around and meeting the small businesses as well. I think meeting the wider community on a whole would definitely help you to understand more of the concerns that people have. What's your take on that?
I think the lockdowns really hurt people very hard, and we're really concerned about businesses not recovering and people losing their jobs and not being able to be made whole and communities suffering as we get through the pandemic. We're also worried about people, you know, particularly school children who need to get their education, not having access to their teachers and not having access to the kind of quality education that we have in Australia. So that's been our focus, and it's been a real concern. I'm also really worried about two Sydneys emerging. There's a really severe restricted lockdown in 12 local government areas, but in other parts of Sydney, it's not as restrictive. So I don't want there to be two Sydneys emerging, one where the economy is depressed, unemployment is lifted, businesses are suffering and closing, and another one that is prospering during the lockdown. If we're all in this together, we have to make a conscious effort to lift up those communities and make sure that they can get through this lockdown and thrive and prosper once the immediate health crisis is over.
I think this is the difficult times, and what they say, when there is a night, the day has definitely to come. I think it'll be sooner than later once the vaccination reaches to a particular percentage. And what I have observed, Chris, your strategic decision not to criticize the government on whatever is happening due to COVID in the state as well. Your take on that?
Oh, yeah, we've really tried to give everybody a holiday from politics. We don't need politics all the time in every scenario, in every situation. And but our focus has been on trying to make the state better. So when we've seen things that have gone bad, we've tried to shine a spotlight on it to fix the situation. So we've seen tens of thousands of businesses not receive the financial support that they were promised by the government. We've seen communities that are subject to harsher restrictions and lockdowns who are not going to be in a strong state when the lockdown's completed. We're worried about unemployment. We're worried about people's education. So, yeah, look, we don't want to play politics, but that also means that in order to stand up for the people of New South Wales, we've had to be quite vocal about problems associated with it. And when the government's made decisions, particularly recently, which we think have been hard to follow, inconsistent and difficult to understand, the opposition's got a responsibility to call that out.
At this point of time, what we are looking at is the numbers are not going down because of this new Delta variant. Probably we should have learned from the experience of the other countries, but it's never too late. Hope this gets under control sooner than later. You pushed for the vaccine hubs, support for the small business, support to the people who need COVID tests for the people in the close contacts by the way of paid leave as well. The government took all these suggestions that you gave, maybe a little late, but they have already been taken care of.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's the proof's in the pudding, right? That's exactly right. If we've been raising these issues and then ultimately the government's agreed to support them, then that's evidence that they were the right things to do in the first place. You're right. We want to get on top of this. This is a really difficult situation. It is an evolving situation, however, and I think, in fact, I know the chances of us getting to 0 cases in New South Wales, it's not going to happen. And really the focus needs to be on vaccinations, ensuring that people do get vaccinated and that we have a safe and easily understood plan to get back to some kind of normality in New South Wales. That's got to be the focus over the coming months, and we're committed to doing that.
I think a lot of people have been not been able to meet their loved ones for long times. That's what I wish for as the first priority, to go and meet their loved ones. The mental health is another concern that we all have. But when I talk about you being in the lockdown, being the leader of opposition, what have been the major achievements that you consider have been achieved in this short span of time?
In the short space of time, and I've only been there a matter of months, but the short space of time was getting the government to turn around in their financial support for small businesses, particularly in Western Sydney. It looked like they were going to impose a lockdown and not put in the kind of financial support we needed to get through this pandemic. So Labor took a leading role in relation to that, fought hard to get the government to put the financial support in place. And it was based on a really simple principle. We didn't believe that you could ask business and commerce to close down their business and shut their doors without providing financial support to get them through this pandemic. And we didn't want any job or any business to close because somebody did the right thing and listened to their own government health advice.
Getting the food on the table and roof on the head are the two necessities that everybody has the right to go for. So what are the main policies that you are taking for the next elections?
Well, we're going to develop them over the next 12 months, but they'll really focus on making sure that we've got a plan to drive down the cost of living for families. I think it's just too expensive to live in New South Wales, and the New South Wales government, to be fair with you, notwithstanding the fact we've given them a political holiday for the pandemic, they are really pushing so many tolls, fees, charges, taxes and fines on working families, making life as hard as possible, I believe, to make ends meet in Sydney, particularly Western Sydney and Southwestern Sydney, in particular in those 12 local government areas that are subject to this tough restrictions. So our goal, our focus will be to make sure that those families can rise up, that they've got an opportunity in New South Wales, that they have full access to a growing economy, and that they're not disadvantaged because of where they live or where they've grown up. That will be the focus of the New South Wales opposition. And I'm concerned that a lot of decisions in relation to where spending on hospitals, on schools, on public transport is just too focused in a few areas in Sydney and are not being spread out to the areas that have the highest population growth. Cannot have that kind of increase in your population in your suburb without the New South Wales government stepping in to provide the infrastructure that you need to get on with your daily life. So they're the two areas that we'll be focusing on like a laser beam once the pandemic's over, easing the cost of living for working families and making sure that everybody has a fair access to infrastructure, particularly those growing communities.
Now, being the member of COGRA, how much connections do you have with the South Asian community of New South Wales?
Wonderful connections. So got strong connections with the Nepalese community in southwestern Sydney and the Indian community, and there's a lot of Fijian community expats that live in St George, but we've got close connections with all of them, and wonderful, hard-working members of our community, and I'm proud to call many of them close friends of mine.
To strengthen the involvement of the South Asian community with the government, are you looking someone who could be part of your parliamentary team as well?
Of course, yes. We've got some great South Asian and Indian descent people in the Labor Party who are wonderful contributors to our growing political organisation. Look, we haven't been successful, Navneet, for a long time. You know, we haven't won an election in New South Wales since 2007. So we've been playing football, but haven't won many games. So that tells me that we have to re-engage with these communities, speak the language of those communities, make sure that we're in tune with and will be vigorous supporters of an optimistic future for them. And if we do those things and stick to the message, then I think we'll have success and we'll have far more people and a more diverse background in the parliamentary ranks of the Labor Party.
Have you identified some of the individuals who could be part of this parliamentary team?
Well, not specifically. We haven't done all our pre-selections yet, and because of the COVID pandemic, that part of the process has been pushed back a little bit. But as soon as the pandemic's over, we've got to start focusing on who's going to be in our team, our candidate team, heading into the 2023 election, and it's all to fight for then.
Now, hope sustains life, and what I wish for this pandemic time should go as soon as it's possible. Before I wrap up, any of the message for the South Asian community living in New South Wales?
Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your dedication. You make Australia better by being here. We're so lucky to have you as part of our wonderful multicultural community. The Labor Party stands with you during this very difficult time, and when the pandemic's over, I'm so looking forward to getting out and meeting you firsthand to talk to you about our aspirations and our hopes for New South Wales. We're committed to making it better, and we want you to be part of that story. I'm looking forward to COVID being over and a return to normality, so for you, your family, your community, and your livelihood can get back to normal.
Looking forward to meet you one day in person, sooner than later. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris Minns. For the time, I understand you have to go for the next meeting, so I would let you go now. जी हाँ, आज हमने की क्रिस मिन्स से बातचीत और मैं आपका नवनीत. Chris, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
One-stop answer to your Australian education and visa matters. Gemco Sydney. Dream big, achieve big.
Fiji Times. Be with the times.